All right, all right, all right. How's everybody doing tonight on this Saturday evening? I hope everybody doing okay. My name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. So I thought that I would get on because me and my girl were watching the Gabby Petito on Netflix. Let me turn this stuff off. That way I don't send somebody into like a seizure or something. Put something behind the backdrop. There we go. I don't like that one either, but it'll have to do. Anyways, we were watching the Gabby Petito story, and we were both talking about it, and I thought, let's revisit it. Let's go back and learn about it together. And she's like, okay. And it's been a while since, this case has been in the news and stuff, and whoa. I'm just all over the place right now. Y'all please hang with me. So I want to start by playing how it all started. And let me pull that up right here. I think this case is going to, I can't believe I didn't ever get into this case. I guess I was just starting YouTube when this was going on. Here we go.
Gabby, Petito, never goes outside. It was a sunset.
One thing that I noticed very early on in the documentary on Netflix is it seemed like Brian had some issues with the relationship, and he seemed to be a little, I wouldn't say controlling, I would say he was very, very uncertain with her loyalty to the relationship. And I thought that was a huge red flag. Like I mentioned before in the domestic violence series that I've done, when they isolate you from family, from your job, from your friends, that is the controller's way to just keep you in their grasp, so to speak. The documentary stated, they started off really good, like every relationship. And Gabby was having problems with Brian's mother. Supposedly, the mother had went from being nice and kind to not really liking Gabby and thinking that Brian was spending too much attention with her, too much time with her, which is also another red flag. So, how many of y'all thought that Brian looked so much older than he was? I mean, I'm not trying to be rude or anything when I say this because in the documentary it spoke about that as well. But he looks like he's old enough to be an older father figure. I mean, I know that they're almost the same age, but he just looks. having money to have gas, food. I think they were out there 4 months.
Looking to steal some of his granola. All the chocolate melted.
I know. It's a river of chocolate. Be cautious.
You can't keep chocolate in Utah. Not in July. Or in a clear plastic container
Yeah.
that is always in the sun.
I was in the tent this morning, I think that's why.
Since watching this, though, I do want one of those hammocks. That does look pretty cool.
I love the band.
So, we are right outside Capitol Reef right now in a free dispersed camp spot. And we've been lucky so far at all the places we've stayed, but I'd say this is one of the best so far. Since we left New York, I've only set up my hammock once, and now we're all the way in Utah, and luckily enough, I was able to set up my hammock in one of these trees.
And we're kind of like in the desert.
Maybe a few trees.
It's so sad that things have to end so tragic, especially when they start off so beautiful like this. Don't y'all agree? I mean, how come it has to be so awful when it starts off so good? If you've ever been in a domestic situation, you do understand that there are good times, and sometimes you do stay for all the wrong reasons. Sometimes you stay because you believe that whatever is going on, for whatever reason, might be your fault. And the person might be telling you, hey, I can't live without you. If you leave, what will happen to me? Let's continue on. This case is so sad.
This man killed her. He put it in his notebook. When they found his body, he had the notebook saying, I killed her. I had to relieve her of her pain. So, unfortunately, you can't look at this situation without some hindsight, okay? Because ultimately, this man was a monster and he killed her.
A newly released photo taken by Gabby Petito herself appears to show injuries on her face in the days before she was strangled to death.
Is there something on your cheek here? Looks like, did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. And then over on your arm, shoulder, right here.
The photo
This is live, chick.
was taken at 4:37 p.m. on August 12, 2021, just minutes before a 911 call that led up to this traffic stop.
So there's two people that came to us and told us that they saw him hit you. There's two people saying that they saw him punch you. We're just independent witnesses by Moonflower.
Well, to be honest, I definitely hit him first.
The law firm representing Petito's parents released the photo on Monday, saying, quote, Gabby documented the injury and, during the stop, attempted to tell the Moab officers. However, the seriousness and significance of this type of injury was completely ignored.
Where did he hit you? Don't worry, just be
He
honest.
grabbed my face, just like this. He didn't hit me in the face, he didn't
When she got out of the vehicle, the first thing she told him was, I have OCD and it bothers him sometimes. So we started arguing about it. I was just in the back cleaning the van and he got upset and he started hitting her. Like right now, she's downplaying it. She's minimizing it. She's already been through the cycle of abuse and she's experiencing the trauma effect of it right now.
Me in the face or anything.
Did he slap your face or what?
Well, like he like grabbed me like with his nail, and I guess that's why it was. I definitely have a cut right here because I could feel it when I touch it. It burns.
Brett Ward, a family practice attorney with a specialty in domestic violence, says there may be a few reasons why the photo was released when it was.
One, the lawsuit where her parents are suing the police department came out about 3 months ago, and I imagine there's probably some pre-trial proceedings that are going on there, and this is an effort to both sway the public opinion on the issue and probably influence any potential jury and the judge involved. Also, the Utah Senate just passed a bill that's going to require a different type of domestic violence assessment about 8 days ago. And Gabby's parents were a big proponent of this.
Petito's parents, Joe Petito and Nicole Schmidt, have filed suit against the Moab Police Department, alleging officers ignored crucial evidence in the case and did not follow up with an investigation.
And what these photos, they believe, show is that there was some sort of strangulation that occurred before the police got there, and there was proof in the form of blood on her nose and her cheekbone and her forehead, which made it look like someone had put their hand over her head and blocked her nose.
The lawsuit also argues police incorrectly labeled Petito as the aggressor in this situation.
Once someone resorts to that type of violence, one, it basically creates a new level of who's the primary aggressor. So no longer are these two people who kind of had a, pity pat, stay away from me, push, fight, but that someone went to the step of blocking someone's, airway. And, two.
See, I wasn't following this case really thoroughly, but correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't there a couple that picked up Brian walking and they gave him a ride into town or something and they dropped him off and he was discussing the whole situation to them? I can't remember, but I have so many cases in my brain. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The risk of someone being murdered by their intimate partner after an act of strangulation occurs goes up like 700-fold. So that's why this is all very important.
Set up. I think our plan for today is to just hang out here in the tent.
Petito's case gained national attention when her family reported her missing in September 2021. At the time, they told authorities they had last heard from her via text in late August. He returned to his family's home in Florida without Petito on September 1st. Laundrie was named a person of interest in the case on September 15th, and by September 17th, Laundrie's parents had reported him missing. Days later, a shocking discovery.
Now we begin with a story gripping the nation. A once missing Gabby Petito's remains have been found. Her death ruled a homicide.
Petito's remains were found in Grand Teton National Park. Her cause of death was determined to be strangulation. In late September, a federal warrant was issued for Laundrie's arrest, but on October 20th, his remains were discovered in a Florida reserve. Officials determined he died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Nearby, officials found a notebook in which Laundrie admitted to Petito's murder, writing, quote, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it is what she wanted, but I see now all the mistakes I made."
It's clear that this was a very disturbed man, and the police gave him a pass.
So his view on this was a mercy killing. This is what she wanted. How the hell did she want that if her life was just beginning and she was into the van life and, documenting and getting her chin off the ground and all this other stuff. How did she want to die? That doesn't make no sense.
Whether that was right or wrong, that's what happened. This man killed her. He put it in his notebook when they found his body. He had the notebook saying, I killed her. I had to relieve her of her pain. So, unfortunately, you can't look at this situation without some hindsight, okay? Because ultimately, this man was a monster and he killed her.
Days before Petito went missing, 911 callers reported seeing laundry hit her while in Moab, Utah. That's when this body camera footage was taken.
Is there something on your cheek here? Looks like, did you get hit in the face? Kind of looks like something like hit you in the face. And then over on your arm, shoulder, right here. That's new, huh? It's kind of a new mark.
Oh, yeah.
Then why didn't they arrest him at that point? That's what I want to know. She obviously has some bruising, her eye, her arm. Why didn't they arrest Brian at that point? There's probable cause.
I don't know.
Can I see the other side of your face? So, what happened here and here?
I'm not sure. It was I was trying to get in the back of the car and his backpack was on the back.
So the backpack got you?
The complaint was that he was hitting her. And what I think one of the problems here is, and this is about training, and the whole issue here is how we train law enforcement, how we train the attorneys, how we train judges on issues of domestic violence, that they will come across to, all right, is protect the batterer. And that can be part of their safety planning. For all she knew, if she said, this guy had strangled me, and the police would have said, okay, lady, but we'll arrest him, he'll get out of jail. And then she's got to go home with him or go up into the mountains with him, and that's when you have people who aren't in this situation, but in their home, and this is the father of their children, or this is their primary mode of economic support, victims of, interspousal violence or intimate partner violence. Often part of their safety planning is not to reveal the truth of the situation. An officer should have been looking at that in that situation. You had a complaint that they saw him hitting her, and you come upon her and she has blood and a puffy eye. I think the assessment should have been what happened with their eyes and not what she said in that moment.
But while callers reported laundry hit Petito, she told police she struck laundry first.
So you pushed her and she hit you? It wasn't like a push and she jumped on me. She was already, she's already swinging, and I was a lot of angles, a lot of nails, a lot of rings.
And I think when you look at the body cam video, which was released a long time ago, Gabby takes some responsibility for her behavior. He has cuts on his face and his neck. She has cuts on her face.
Did he hit you though? I mean,
this is touchy. I get it now. He has cuts. She has cuts. What would y'all have done? Would y'all have taken Brian, or would you have taken both of them? Would you have taken her? What would you have done?
Okay, if you're saying you hit him, and then I understand if he hit you, but we want to know the truth if he actually hit you.
I guess, yeah, but I hit him first.
Her statements seem to indicate that she was the one who started the physicality, okay? But when you have a situation like that someone gives a little push, the other person can't punch them in the face and knock them out and say, well, she started it. That's not how that works. What this is saying is that whatever you think who started it and, who was the initial initiator of the physicality, he took it to a level that made it a severe crime. And that is the reason he is the primary aggressor in this situation. And in making your safety assessment, the person who was at risk was her, that they should have protected her. And in the end, they mislabeled who was the one who was the problem here and didn't take action that they should have taken to protect her life.
Ward says he believes officers should have arrested Brian Laundrie.
She was clearly very shaken. She was crying. At that moment, based on the complaint and her injuries, I think he should have been arrested. At the end of the day, if it turns out she was the primary aggressor or she decided not to go forward with charges, great. But at that moment, that they would, be camping together the next day when there were marks and blood and a complaint, to me, that was the error. I think that the officer should have made some sort of arrest. I mean, even if they were wrong and they detained her, all right, and got her somewhere safe where she could have told the story without him being 20 feet away, and knowing that maybe, call her parents and, have her parents fly out and be there for her, that she knows she wasn't about to get in a van with this guy. That is the kind of safety assessment that should have been made.
It just makes me upset. I know that he definitely gets frustrated with me a lot because.
What also makes me wonder is on the Netflix documentary if friends or family had any prior knowledge of any domestic violence. Had they seen signs of, one of her friends was talking about, potentially seeing signs, but nobody really did anything. Nobody really stepped in. And I know it's hard. They're adults. It's hard to convince somebody to leave somebody who they feel they're in love with, especially if that person is abusing them. It's hard for them to leave.
I have a lot of anxiety, and he definitely has anxiety too.
Well, that could be a bad combo if you both have anxiety.
There was, if you look at the body cam video, one of the police officers saying, well, my ex-wife and we would trigger each other and it would escalate.
My girlfriend's really, really calm, and she has a way of taking my anxiety and bringing it down. But my ex-wife, that's why she's my ex-wife, I'm just sharing, I know it's a little personal, but to help you understand, we would feed off each other's anxiety and it would spiral. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how much I loved her.
Come on, bro.
It may be
doesn't
bad
make
for
it
your
right.
soul. Just saying.
That's not helpful. It really wasn't. You now wonder, was he biased? All right. Was he
putting
about
you
this gentleman in the role of him and being sympathetic to him, that, oh, my wife used to do this to me and I used to act and I was justified, so you were justified.
As for the Petito Schmidt family's case against the Moab Police Department, Ward believes it could be a strong one.
And this is a very sympathetic two people who lost a daughter, that there was a complaint that this man hit her. The police stopped, saw injuries on her, and basically threw her to the lion's den, back to this guy, and then he finished the job. That is a very, very compelling theme that they could put forward. So they could absolutely win this case. And they're going to have an expert who's going to come in and say, when you see these injuries, that he tried to block her airway. And when he tried to block her airway, you need to know as a police officer, that's case closed, arrest him. This is aggravated assault, put him in the wagon, get him to the police station, question him, get her to a separate place, question her, and, basically try to prevent the risk that he'll do that again and succeed. And that's the, thrust of it. So those photos are extremely important and, incredibly bolster Gabby's parents' case against the police department.
In addition to the Moab Police Department's lawsuit, Petito's parents also filed suit against Laundrie's parents.
It's not simply about the silence of Christopher and Roberta Laundrie, who knew that their son had brutally murdered Gabby Petito. It's not simply about their callous refusal, despite pleas from the Petito family, to speak up about whether or not Gabby was alive and if she wasn't, where her body was located. It's about a course of conduct that they committed from the moment they learned on August 28th of 2021 that their son had brutally murdered Gabby Petito up until the time that her body was.
It would be hard. It would be hard to take everything I had and not go after the person. It really would. The first time I heard, that'd be the last time I'd hear it.
Found.
Ward says the newly released photo may help in that lawsuit as well.
I don't know what defenses they're going to offer in their lawsuit. If they were to defend that my son's a good boy, he never could have done this, then yeah, those photos could be relevant.
In the end, Ward says he hopes Petito's case can shed light on domestic violence awareness.
Unfortunately, sometimes it takes victims like Gabby to force education upon all of us. And I have to say that we need so much more. And I hope that legislatures across the country look at a situation like this and are motivated to try to prevent these situations by putting money into training from people and the entire system.
Last week, Petito's mother was in Utah to support the passage of a law that would require more training and procedures in domestic violence situations. She maintains Gabby Petito would still be alive had Moab police officers responded appropriately. Reporting for Law and Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Just sad how all that went down. Where's everybody at on this Saturday night? Who are they watching? Are they watching Idaho? Is that what everybody's watching? I know this is an old case. Probably doesn't really matter to a lot of people, but I was watching the documentary and I can't help but just being drawn to stuff like this, because I didn't know the level. I didn't know the level of de-escalation of his behavior and how he treated her up to that point. I didn't really understand that escalation. Well, I'm really not going to talk a lot. I'm going to let Annie talk, and then I'll probably end it because I told my girlfriend I'd be off here not really late. So you can continue to comment. You're doing well. I'm reading your comments.
For a minute and be real with you, because I want to talk about relationships, whether it's a intimate relationship, a work relationship, a friendship, whatever a relationship it is. I feel like sometimes they can leave us with more questions than answers. I mean, for me, have you ever found yourself wondering, like, why do I feel like I'm never doing this well enough? Why do I feel like I'm never good enough? Why do I feel like all my conversations are turning into arguments? Why do I feel like I can't speak up for myself? Maybe you even question, like, am I asking for too much? Are my needs valid? Am I making a good point? Again, whether it's work, personal, whatever it may be. Trust me, you are not alone.
Yes, I understand that. I understand that it did start off good. It started off very good. And then she moved to Florida. And that seems where it really started to unravel. But Brian had a dark side to him that a lot of people didn't know. Because it's easy for us to hide that dark side if we have it. Because you live with it so long, it's just a part of you. It's not like it's something that's abnormal until you show it to somebody and then they're like, hey, what the hell is wrong with you?
Alone if you feel that way. I mean, I do all the time with work, with everything. We all have those moments of doubt, whether it's about friendships, family, dating, even our relationship with ourselves sometimes. Mine as a mom, 100%. I question all the time. Am I doing enough? Am I giving them enough attention? Am I raising them right? And while I feel like we might turn to Google or friends or even strangers on the internet for advice sometimes to just put our minds at ease and feel calm about it, I've realized we need real guidance, and we need some guidance from somebody who is trained to untangle all of those thoughts to help really guide us. And that is where BetterHelp comes in, who also happens to be the sponsor of today's episode. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can help you work through life's toughest questions, just so that you're not stuck overanalyzing or second guessing yourself. And all you have to do is fill out a short questionnaire, and literally in a month of therapy.
Gabby and Brian seemed like a loving couple, but behind the scenes, they would get into arguments.
It was like every parent's nightmare, just like in a flash of a second. She's gone. She's missing.
The happiest people on social media usually have the darkest skeletons in their closet.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Gabby.
And this is our Ford Transit Connect that we've been living in. And we thought it was finally time to give you a tour.
What were they doing? We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Hey everybody, welcome back to an all-new episode of 10 to Life with me, Annie Elise. Today I want to talk with you guys about the Gabby Petito case because I have a different take based on this documentary, and I'm kind of upset that they didn't mention a few of the big details in there, which I feel kind of make the whole timeline understandable and even frustratingly more avoidable. Now, let me backtrack. Let me move my mic here. Let me backtrack a little bit because I'm going to start at the beginning before I get into all of that. And I'm not giving a full recap of the case. So, unfortunately, if you aren't familiar with that case, which I would imagine most people are, you can watch a plethora of videos online about this case. There's also a new documentary that released on Netflix. But I really want to talk about and touch on what they did not mention. And I don't understand why they didn't talk about all of this. But anyway, Gabby Petito's case shook the world when she first went missing back in 2021. And then it had everybody in even more uproar when it was revealed that her fiance, Brian Laundrie, was the one responsible for her murder. But now, as I said, Netflix's American Murder, Gabby Petito, it came out and it does give you a much deeper look into what was really going on behind the scenes, beyond this Instagram-worthy road trip of photos of van life and all of these things, because we're seeing uncut footage, we're seeing new pictures, we're hearing new testimony, and it really is a good documentary and gives you a better understanding and a full understanding of the case. As I mentioned, it dives into never seen footage, text messages, interviews, and it really also, to me, and I'm sure many of you who watched it, it reveals something that is absolutely heartbreaking that we didn't even know before. And that was that Gabby was trying to leave Brian. She knew that things weren't right, and she was scared about how he might react, and she was looking for a way out. But something that they didn't talk about was how Brian went home to Florida after that Moab incident, after the Utah incident, the infamous body cam footage. He not only went to the hotel or the shelter place and stayed, but then he went back to Florida. And when he went back to Florida, that is when Gabby started pulling away. And as I go through this...
Oh, so she was still alive after that? So he went back to Florida without her. And then did he go back out there to her? Y'all help me out with this. Maybe Annie will help me.
I'm going to kind of build out my timeline because to me, it seems very crystal clear what happened and why this happened and what was the catalyst. But they didn't really go into details about that. And I think that that is very crucial in this. Now, what this docuseries also showed us, like so many issues when there is domestic disputes and dangerous situations, the most dangerous time for a victim is when they are trying to leave. And in Gabby's case, that fear was, of course, tragically justified. So we're going to go through all of the new things that we learned through this docuseries. And
that's one of the most important things. If you get anything from domestic violence education, it'd be very leery when you're planning to leave, because that is a volatile time for both of you. I mean, especially if one of them is unhinged and you know he's put his hands on you, he's done certain things, and you've finally gotten the courage to leave. Is there any advice that you could give any females or males in the chat that is proactive and pro-social to assist anybody who may be watching this in the future that is planning on leaving an abusive situation, just does not know how?
And some of the stuff that I had learned years ago when we were researching this case that they didn't really touch on, that again, make the puzzle not only fit, but it makes me more angry. It really does, because I think that there could have been opportunity to intervene multiple times. So we'll talk about that. So let's start with more of like the emotional abuse and the control that we didn't really see coming. Before this docuseries, a lot of people only saw the happy road trip version of Gabby and Brian. The Instagram posts, the YouTube vlogs, and everything really did look picture perfect. Piggyback rides, beautiful sceneries, them cooking together, them doing little things. I mean, we all know what you see on social media isn't the true picture, right? But American Murder, Gabby Petito, it kind of flips the script. It showed us what was really happening behind the camera with all of the unedited footage. And through text messages, interviews, and that footage from Gabby's computer, a very different Brian Laundrie starts to come into focus. One who was very controlling, very emotionally manipulative, and somebody who was constantly gaslighting Gabby. And here's what the documentary reveals about their dynamic.
Yeah, he was sending these text messages. If you haven't seen the documentary, it sounds very like she just said, very gaslighting. You know, at one point she was going to go out to hang out with one of her female friends, and she was crying. The female friend texted her. She said, "What's going on? Brian took my ID and hid it." She said, "I'm still coming. I just can't find my ID. I'm on my way." And the female friend's like, "Why did he take it?" "Well, he doesn't want me to go." Like the end of this one, there's so much more before this one, but it says, "I just wanted this week to go smoothly. Sad face. I'm crying so hard in the dumb fucking bathroom typing this, and I know you love me, and I'm so sorry. I worry you'll leave. It's just that I couldn't have my life without you." If that doesn't tell you about what to come, I don't know what will.
Brian constantly belittled Gabby. He'd make her feel like she was overreacting or that she was being crazy whenever she expressed concerns, just constantly gaslighting her. He also isolated her. She had fewer and fewer people to talk to because Brian was controlling their environment, their finances, how they would spend their time on the road, what destinations they would go to, everything. Even when she was preparing for this road trip working at Taco Bell, he started to lose control over her and over him trying to isolate her. And so he started to make that a problem. Like, why are you hanging out with all these deadbeats at Taco Bell, late night hours, this and that, trying to shame her for what she was trying to do, which was earn money to, bankroll his loser ass on this van life trip. But he still didn't like that she wasn't in his grasp, wasn't under his control. He also controlled their social media. Gabby loved creating the content, but Brian always had a say in how they as a couple in their situation was going to be portrayed. He wanted to keep up appearances. He wanted to look like the good guy, the supportive guy, but we see that he really wasn't that. And he also had a history of getting physical. Now, we saw the body cam footage from Moab, Utah, and it's infamous footage. I will play a couple clips here for you, but we saw that footage where we're called after somebody actually saw Brian hitting Gabby in the street.
Hi, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, I'm calling. I'm right on the corner of Main Street by Moonflower, and we're driving by, and I'd like to report a domestic dispute. Florida with the white van, Florida license plate, white land, gentleman,
Where's it at?
5'6" beard. They just drove off. They're going down Main Street. They made a right onto Main Street from Moonflower.
Or what were they doing?
Cooperative, but what do you say?
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
But in the docuseries, we see even more evidence about how this wasn't just a one-time thing. And this kind of manipulation is classic in abusive relationships, okay? The abuser makes the victim question themselves. They isolate them from any support systems they have, and then they slowly just break them down until they feel like they can't leave, until they feel like they have nobody else and that it's their fault and that they're only going to be accepted by this person. Now, I want to touch on Moab really quickly. The infamous Moab police body cam incident occurred on August 12th, 2021. This was the day that they had received that phone call of somebody witnessing Brian slapping Gabby in the street. And then the police officers spotted their van, pulled them over because they went onto a median or hit a curb and it looked as though, he was driving erratically. Now, in this body cam footage, Gabby is distraught, just visibly distressed. She's crying. She's apologizing repeatedly, all while Brian appears calm, collected. He's even joking with the officers, calling her crazy to them. And this is all despite a witness report saying that Brian had been hitting Gabby.
What's going on? How come you're crying?
I'm sorry. We've just been fighting this morning. some personal issues. I'm sorry that I'm so mean because sometimes I have OCD and sometimes I just get really frustrated.
And the flies here are like pretty intense, so the flies have definitely been getting to her. And then my feet are dirty and everything. So I think that our little squabble started because you're hanging out at the coffee shop, and when we got back to the van, there was some dirt and stuff in the van.
We'd have been fighting all morning and he wouldn't let me in the car before. And then
Why wouldn't he let you in the car? Because of your OCD?
He told me I needed to calm down.
We weren't physical before the point where I said, all right, let's just take a breather and like walk away for a minute. I'll lock the van up and I'll go for a walk this way, and you can go walk that way on the block.
You don't trigger anything. I was yelling at him, and then when you turned your lights on, I like kind of punched his arm like there's just an idiot.
She's saying the witness says I never saw him hit her. I saw him shove her, but I couldn't tell if it was an aggression against her or a defense against her. Unless the guy's screaming that he needs to go to jail and did something to this girl, it sounds to me like she is the primary aggressor.
You got 3 scratches on your neck. You got 1 on your left side of your nose. You got 1 on your face here, and you got 4 that are bleeding over there.
I'm not complaining about
Is it bruised or tender or anything like that?
No. Okay. I'm fine, and I look at it. I hope she doesn't have too many complaints about me.
So she's apologizing. She's saying how she suffers from anxiety, stress, how sometimes she gets mad at him. And it's really, really upsetting to watch because
I believe that the answer to your question, Sirius, is I believe that they were just, like the attorney had said in the previous one, they just weren't trained well enough to decipher which one was the aggressor and at what point did it go from just, pushing each other and him putting his hands around her neck, aggressively attacking her. That's when it crosses over from, just a tiff. There's no law, there's no aggression when you're just kind of pushing each other away from each other with a open hand. But once you put your hand around someone's throat and cutting off their air or punching them in the face while you're doing that, that kind of goes over the line. But since, like the attorney said, since they weren't trained at that point, which I don't know why they weren't, they allowed it to go.
officers ultimately categorized Gabby as the aggressor in all of this. And I get that she was the one saying that she was the aggressor. So I understand loosely, I'll say that loosely, how they could come to that conclusion. But what they chose to do in that moment was separate the couple for the night. Take no further action, just separate them. Gabby can sleep in the van. Brian's going to go to this hotel/shelter situation. But this incident has been heavily scrutinized because this was a missed opportunity for intervention. If they labeled her as the aggressor and the problem in this, at the very least, they should have arrested her and they should have taken her into custody, which I wish that they would have done, because had they done that, she would have called her mom and it would have given her mom the opportunity to come and get her, to intervene, to get to the bottom of the situation. At that point, too, I would imagine her mom would have learned about that 911 call, which when they had first notified them, or when she first saw the body cam footage, they hadn't even known that somebody had called 911 reporting that Brian was slapping her. Now, what's frustrating, and that's why I say this was all loosely how they named her as the aggressor, or no, not loosely that they named her as that, but like had they arrested her, that's the most they could have done. Because in this docuseries now, photos of the marks on her face come out. And you can tell this is a photo she took herself, a selfie. She's wearing the exact same outfit that she was wearing in that body cam footage. This was taken on the same day. Clearly, it wasn't taken after they were separated. It was taken before. So my question is, did the police not see these marks? Did they not see how bad they were? I know they saw a little one, but in this photo, she's marked up. Like, so were these markings from earlier on in the day? Was this then from just the slapping incident? We don't have a timestamp of when this photo was, but obviously before they were separated. But how could they not see that? And first of all, let me backtrack, and I know I'm spinning here a little bit. How could they not see that and determine that?
So let me ask you guys in the chat, because like I wasn't following this case, and I'm learning a lot about it as we go along right here, and I'm way behind, of course. years. But it's still interesting to me to find out new things. Were people siding with Brian or were they siding with Gabby? What was the general consensus of this police pullover? Was the internet siding with Brian or was they siding with Gabby? Were they saying that Gabby should have been arrested or Brian should have been arrested? Do y'all remember? Or what was the general consensus? Let me know because, like I said, I wasn't following this case when it was happening. I would see people talking about it and I was like, it really doesn't seem like something that I want to jump into, you know? I'm kind of curious where people were sided because I kind of know that there was probably a division. I just don't know what it was. Look at that mark on her face. That looks like somebody just kind of hitting her in the eye and just pushing her. If I was to say, I mean, that's my opinion.
She was not the primary aggressor. But even if, let's say, the marks had faded by the time they were pulled over, it shows what the dynamic truly was. And it just makes me so mad because, again, even though she was admitting to being the primary aggressor, which she wasn't, by the way, like she was just a scared young girl who had been gaslit so much that she thought that she was the problem in all of this, which she wasn't. But anyway, I get it. She was taking responsibility. And so they said, okay, you know, we're going to put him in the shelter. They should have arrested her. They should have done something more to intervene if they truly thought that Brian was the victim here. Now, I want to talk about what happened after this Moab incident and something that they didn't really touch on much in the docuseries, because shortly after this body cam footage and after they were separated, 5 days after to be exact, Brian flew back to Florida. And this is all according to the family attorney, Stephen Bertolino. Brian flew from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida on August 17th, 2021. The reason he flew back was to obtain some items and close out a storage unit because he wanted to not waste money on this storage unit. He wanted to save money because he and Gabby were contemplating extending their road trip together. So he flew back 5 days after the Moab incident. Now, during this time, Gabby remained in Utah. She stayed at a hotel, the Fairfield Inn and Suites, and this is near Salt Lake City Airport. It was later confirmed by hotel staff as well that she stayed there. Now, while she was there without Brian for those days, she continued communication with her friends and her family, also confiding in them, because it seems like now that she had a little bit of distance from Brian, she was starting to see the light. She was starting to realize that something here just was not right. Additionally, on August 19th, while he's still in Florida, she posted a video on their YouTube channel, Nomadic Static. This video really documented their travels, but again, only from the rose-colored lens of everything, just their perfect trip together. And her posting this really did suggest, to me at least, that she was continuing to focus on their social media presence. She really wanted to focus on content creation while he was away and like dive into that, because as we know, and as we learned from this documentary, she was the only one who had any capability of editing. He couldn't help in anything. He couldn't help.
That's what's often the case is like when someone gets away from their abuser, all of a sudden that light does come on a little brighter and they're able to see the problem. And at that point, they're usually contemplating, am I going to leave? Am I going to stay? Is this the point to go? Is this the point to stay? Should I try to work it out? And he's flying back. So I don't know if she knew he was flying back or not.
Fund it. He couldn't help edit. He couldn't help give good vibes. He couldn't help be nice. Like he was just a freaking loser through and through. So she's now on her own here in Utah for a few days, editing, pouring herself into the content creation, talking with friends and family, and starting to realize like, this is kind of nice with him being away. I'm starting to like realize this isn't how I should be treated. And one of the most chilling details in this documentary is an interview that was done with Gabby's ex-boyfriend, Jackson, because he says that just days before she was murdered, Gabby told him that she wanted to leave Brian, but that she didn't know how he was going to react, that she was scared. So this again showed that now that there was a little distance, she was thinking about things differently, a little more clearly, you could argue. And this interaction that she had with her ex, Jackson, was on August 22nd, just one day before Brian returned. And it makes me really sad, and it makes me really mad, because she had just a couple more days before he came back, maybe she would have gathered a little bit more strength. Maybe she would have been able to have more open conversations and vulnerable conversations with Jackson, with her friends, with Rose, with her parents, to where someone would have known what was really happening. Because at this point, nobody really knew how bad things were. But like I said, during this period, she was still talking to people. She was reaching out to people, and in my opinion, probably trying to process what was happening in her relationship, trying to figure it out. But it's clear now that being away from Brian, even for that short period of time, it gave her some clarity. She wanted out. But then he came back. And when he did come back, that changed everything. Because he returned to Salt Lake City on August 23rd, and he rejoined Gabby in this van life trip. So Gabby checked out of that hotel the very next day on August 24th, right when Brian returned, and then they continued their cross-country journey together. And
well, usually what happens, and I'm going to kind of describe it without a whiteboard here. Usually what happens is there's promises and deals. There's one person, the abuser, and there's the abusee. There's promises and deals being made by the abuser. I won't do this. I'm sorry, I messed up. I shouldn't have put my hands on you. I know, baby, I love you. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done that. So they come back together. But before the ink dries on their agreements, the makeup sex, all that stuff, they start sliding back into familiar roles unconsciously. And that's the dynamic of an abusive relationship, is it always goes backwards very quickly.
And the documentary makes it painfully obvious that Gabby felt trapped. That's my takeaway from this. And this is something that domestic experts talk about all the time. When somebody is in a toxic relationship and when they start thinking about leaving, statistically, that is when it becomes the most dangerous. That is when the abuser feels like they're losing control. And that is when they begin to lash out even more so. So like I said, if she had just had a couple more days on her own before he came back, maybe things would be different. Now let's talk about that unedited footage from Gabby's computer, because it definitely tells a very different story. One of the most heartbreaking pieces of this documentary is that raw, unedited footage from Gabby's computer, because while her social media painted a very happy, bright, sunshine, happy picture, these private videos show a totally different reality. Gabby was deeply anxious. She was constantly apologizing. There's footage of her crying, trying to talk through what's happening, and blaming herself for the fights that she's having with Brian. Now, Brian's controlling behavior was way more obvious, because there's these clips where he didn't even realize that the camera was still rolling, and he snaps at her, he dismisses her feelings, and he just makes her feel small. She also was starting to recognize how toxic the relationship was, and in one journal entry that was shared, she wrote, "I feel like I'm walking on eggshells. One moment everything is okay, and the next he's so angry and I don't know why." She was afraid.
And I did a domestic video uploads where this elderly woman was walking figuratively on eggshells as her husband was controlling her, talking down to her, emotionally beating her down, browbeating her. And then at the end of the video, she opened the door to the younger version of herself, and she's looking at herself and she's crying because she realizes that she messed up. She lost so much time and so much of her life, and this is how it ended, where the younger self was just about to walk through the door. Domestic violence is no joke. It's no laughing matter. And it's never really who's at fault. Obviously, both people need help. You need to be caught in time.
And the more that you watch, the more that you see it. She was scared to leave, but she also knew that she couldn't stay. And you start to see, too, where she's getting a little bit braver, to where she snaps at him. Like in one scene, they're recording something and she says to him something, and I'm just paraphrasing here, of like, well, if you knew how to edit, this would be a lot easier. Kind of realizing like, I'm carrying the brunt work of all of this. This is all falling on my shoulders. Not only did I work to save all this money and convert our van for us and help fund this, but now I'm the one starting this YouTube series, starting this content, and you can't even help with editing it. You also can't set things up. You can't even put on a happy face. Just realizing that like, this loser brings nothing to the table. He's a little twerpy douchebag. And but he had beat her down so much emotionally and mentally that she felt like she couldn't leave. She felt like he did love her and that this was meant to be. So while when this case first happened, we knew that he was shady and that there was something weird going on between them, we all saw.
You know, women, my heart breaks for y'all's stories in the chat. Don't believe that I'm not reading them, or, you know, I extend my hand at your bravery to get out of those situations. Southwest Firefly, I'm sorry you had to go through that. Leslie and Billy, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. Rondi, I've heard your story. I've heard countless other people share their stories in chat. You know, like I said, domestic violence is no laughing matter. It's not as cut and dry as people try to make it. And it should be more spoken upon in this community, in my opinion, because there's women right now and men at this moment and children being abused and scared to go for help. And sometimes if they do get the help, they feel guilty that even if they don't get away from the abuser and they have to go back, how much worse or what could potentially happen once they get back.
Saw the polished version of their life. But this docuseries, it forced us to look at the truth. Social media is a highlight reel, masking a real danger underneath it. And that's exactly what was happening with Gabby and Brian. Now, I talked earlier about this a little bit, but one of the most important things the documentary highlights is that the most dangerous time for a victim of this type of domestic issue is when they try to leave. And that is exactly what happened to Gabby, because she had reached out to people, she was thinking about leaving, and that is when Brian became even more unpredictable. And experts in this series kind of break it down like this. Abusers thrive on control. When they feel like they're losing it, they start to panic. And this is going to become really key, because I'm going to share with you what I believe was the catalyst of what made Brian snap. So this panic that they have can oftentimes turn into violence. And this is why so many of these cases turn deadly at the moment that the victim tries to leave, because they just snap. It's terrifying, but it's true. Gabby was in the most vulnerable position she possibly could have been in, and the system failed her. So let's talk about the boiling point, or what I believe to be the boiling point. So on August 27th, 4 days after Brian returned from Florida, Gabby and Brian were seen at 2 locations in Jackson, Wyoming. And this is what I believe was the tipping point of everything, because at this point, remember, she already had confided in her ex-boyfriend Jackson once that things weren't quite right, that she was feeling a certain type of way. She had a few days away from Brian. She was like, oh, okay, like this isn't right. I'm editing. Then he comes back. So it's before she can make any decisions or distance herself. But then a few days later, they go to Jackson, Wyoming. And while they're there, she sends a Snapchat to her ex-boyfriend, Jackson, saying, oh, this reminds me of you. I'm in Jackson too. Like, you know, whatever the context of that snap was. Then we see the Mary Piglet's Tex-Mex restaurant, because witnesses reported that around 1:11 p.m., the couple was here dining. During their visit, Brian was observed arguing with restaurant staff. Gabby appeared visibly upset. We also saw text messages that she was sending Brian from the bathroom. She was apologizing for his behavior. It was just, things were brewing. It's my opinion that he saw that she was in communication with her ex-boyfriend Jackson, or had sent that snap, and that this is what made him start to spiral. Because shortly after leaving the restaurant at approximately 2:11 p.m., surveillance footage then pictures them entering that Whole Foods. But when it shows them pull up in the parking lot, you can visibly see Brian get out of the van and slam the door, already angry, already fuming. Then they spend about 15 minutes inside before returning to the van. So as we know, these sightings on August 27th are among the last known instances of Gabby being seen alive in public, and it's also her last known contact with her family. Now, It's my belief. So let me backtrack a little bit. Again, this is all my belief based on what we've learned and different timestamps we've heard of. It's my belief, whether it was before or right after the Tex-Mex restaurant, that Brian saw that she had sent that snap to her ex, realizing he's losing control of her. She probably already at that point too was beginning to pull away, because remember, she had had those few days to herself. She already was starting to pull away. And it's my belief that she was strangled and killed inside the van shortly after Whole Foods. And then I think he drove with her to the campsite. Now, the reason why I think that is because all of that went down on the 27th, but she also sent that infamous text message to her mom on the 27th. If you remember, that day she sent a very odd text to her mom, Nicole, and it read, "Can you help Stan? I just keep getting his voicemails and his missed calls." And Stan was a reference to her grandfather. But Gabby never referred to him by his first name. She would call him grandpa or whatever. So this text made her mom very suspicious that Brian would have been the one to maybe send this message from her phone, because he would have been the only one calling him Stan. Now, we don't know exactly what time she sent that text message, I should say that text message came from her phone. But unless it was very, very late at night or even the middle of the night, I would imagine that it would have been earlier in the day, and that Brian wouldn't have risked attention or risked getting caught by texting her mom in the middle of the night. I think that if he was going to send that text, it was probably earlier in the day. He wouldn't want to be like, I don't want her to question why I'm sending a text at 2 a.m. or why Gabby is sending a text at 2 a.m. So I think it happened earlier on in the day. So that would have meant that the estimated time of death would have been between when she left Whole Foods on the 27th and when that text message was sent on the 27th, which in my opinion was probably more likely before 12 a.m. So that's a small window of time, right? Call it 2:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. And again, I think that something happened in that van on the way to the campsite, maybe even right when they arrived at the campsite. But I think that the catalyst was seeing something on her phone. And then I think he obviously had access to her phone. We know he did, whether it was passcode protected or whatnot, because he sent the Stan text later on that day. And the FBI also determined, of course, that Gabby was killed between August 27th and August 28th. I personally believe it was the 27th.
You know, that's so sad that it's almost that if I can't have you, no one else can. After this is over, stick around. I'm going to show something Jeff H. showed me one time on his page, and he clears up something that, might make a lot of sense to people. So stick around.
Then, as we know, Gabby's body was discovered on September 19th at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming's Teton National Forest. And the autopsy had concluded that she died of manual strangulation. Also, that she had been deceased for about 3 to 4 weeks before being found. So I think one of the big pictures here, first and foremost, the big learning coming out of this docuseries was the true dynamic and just how controlling Brian was and what a loser he truly was. And I don't mean that jokingly, like honestly, like just a deadbeat loser. And it shows us more of like what was going on behind the lens. But I think with Gabby's ex-boyfriend Jackson also speaking, we get an insight into Gabby's mind those final days, that she was realizing things weren't right. She was trying to detach. She was confiding, so much so. And I could say I've been in, unfortunately, similar relationships where there is definitely a shift in power and somebody who's very controlling. And I will say, when you do start to feel brave in those relationships and feeling prepared to leave and prepared to walk away, you get, I don't want to say careless or reckless, but you get more empowered, more emboldened, because you are in your mind feeling like you're already going to leave. So there's not a risk necessarily of them finding out and being mad. And I'm doing a really bad job explaining this, so let me just kind of slow down and go back. But while he was in Florida and she was in the hotel alone for those few days, she reached out to Jackson, expressing some concern. She also had talked with family and friends, not about concern, but just she was starting to like be detached and get more confident in herself. Then when Brian's back in town, she still has the bravery and the courage to send a snap to her ex-boyfriend, something that I would imagine she didn't have before, because he didn't even hear from Gabby for the first time until Brian was out of town. So now she's feeling braver, and she sends him that text saying, I'm in Jackson, thinking of you, like, because Jackson's your name, this and that, or like, it reminds me of you, not thinking of you, but it reminds me of you. And sends that while she's with literally either next to Brian or at least in close proximity to Brian. So I think that is a detail that you could argue is very indicative of the fact that she was detaching. I don't think she would have done that if she wasn't detaching. And that's why I believe that was the catalyst. I think he had.
I agree with you, Annie, on that one. I really do. I believe that that's probably what got her killed, is the fact that he was already jealous of losing her, and it started way back in the beginning. Those red flags. I can't live without you. I'm crying. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Come on, bro. Grow a pair.
Access to her phone, which I think we can prove he did, because whether it was passcode protected or not, he sent a text message from it later. So it's not a far stretch to believe that he was going through her phone, that he was looking through her messages, that he wanted all control over her. Certainly not. Even if she was outside filming something with the drone, grabbing her phone to look and then seeing that. And I think that's when it all kind of clicked for him. Shit, stemming off this Moab incident, stemming off of being apart when I was at the storage unit. Now she's reaching out to her ex. Like, maybe he even went back and saw the text thread after seeing the snap history. Who knows? And that's where it all kind of came to a boiling point. I don't think it was something that was necessarily premeditated. I think he probably did snap in the moment and he went to hit her.
Here's a question for you women in the chat, because I want your honest opinion. The fact that she reached out to her ex during that time that he was gone, would he potentially have viewed this as cheating on him? Would this, no matter the end situation of him putting his hands on her and everything, do you believe that he viewed this as her cheating on him while he was gone? What do y'all think? Do you think that he viewed this as, she's cheating on me, or she cheated on me while I was gone? I didn't know that was his excuse, but that just came into my mind. Like, he had to justify it somehow, because according to him, he loved her so much. That's just scary to think about, somebody caring about you that much, that without you in their life, they're going to kill you.
Her again, he put his hands on her and he strangled her because he was panicked and pissed off that she was going to leave him. And even if she hadn't said that she was going to leave him, he probably knew. And keep in mind, that whole span of events was only 2 weeks. The body cam footage to when Gabby was killed was a 2-week period, which 5 of those days, Brian wasn't even in town for. He was in Florida, actually 6 of those days. So if you're talking, it was 15 days total between the 2 incidents, 6 of those days out. There was only 9 days that they were together, bookending between Moab and when Gabby was killed. 5 days after the body cam footage until he left, and then 4 days once he returned and he killed her. It's just, had there been a little more time, like I said, and it's always easy to look back in hindsight, right? But had he been in Florida with that storage unit a little longer, maybe things would be different. And this documentary isn't just about revisiting a true crime case. It's about learning from it, because Gabby's story isn't just tragic, but it's a wake-up call. There are so many people in relationships like this, and many people don't make it out. The signs of coercive control, emotional abuse, the isolation, they were all there, but they were very easy to miss, especially when Brian and Gabby's life just looked so perfect from the outside. So what do you take away? What are the big things? We always talk about generating awareness on this channel and how we can learn from it, how we can identify red flags. So what do we learn? Pay attention to the warning signs. If someone in your life is suddenly isolated, anxious, or constantly apologizing for their partner's behavior, you should check in on them. And I'm going to give a personal example here. Not that something that I noticed with a friend of mine or a family member, but something that happened to me. I was in a relationship when I was, how old was I? Let's call it 24 years old, maybe, give or take, 24 or 25. And it was with someone who I had a history with, who I had been with years earlier, and we were trying to give it another shot. He was much older than me, and he wanted total control over me. And I at first romanticized it. I was like, he just loves me so much. I'm his whole world. Like, he just wants to be with me all the time because we're so in love and this and that. And he doesn't want me to see other friends because he wants to be around me. He wants me to only be with him and his friends and this and that. But over time, it got to the point where he wouldn't even let me work. Literally, he would not let me go to work. And then when I started working remotely, I'd bring my laptop to his house, and I would be like, okay, I just need to like have a couple hours. I have a little bit of work to do because I was doing more consulting stuff at that time. He would get mad. He wouldn't even let me work on my laptop. And in the rare moment that he would be sitting over me, like watching me, to where I almost felt, it got so bad to where I felt guilty even trying to work when I was near him. I felt like I couldn't. Anytime, like if my phone would go off and I got a text message and I grabbed it, not like I was sitting there scrolling, but like if I went to respond, he'd be like, oh, you're always on your phone. Why are you always on your phone? Like, who are you talking to? What's going on? To where I would start silencing my phone and like keep it away anytime I would go to his house, because he would make me feel like I was doing something wrong. Like,
and then why aren't you answering your phone calls? What are you hiding? Why isn't your phone ringing like it once was? Then they turn it into the other way. It's terrible. It is so terrible. I've seen it more than once with my friends. I mean, I've had female friends as well, and they've had jealous ass boyfriends, you know? Why are y'all hanging out? How come y'all have a good relationship and y'all are just friends and blah, blah, blah? It's like, come on, bro, get off the gas. You know, maybe if you talk to her like we talk, just as friends, maybe your relationship wouldn't be so crazy.
it was my fault that I shouldn't be talking on my phone. It almost made me feel like, and again, I'm sorry, I didn't prepare how I wanted to say this, so I'm not explaining it very
You're good.
or clearly, but it's like it brings me right back there. He made me feel like I genuinely was doing something wrong, to where I thought that I was being shady. I thought that I had to hide things because I was like, oh my God, he's going to get mad at me. What is he going to get mad at me for next? I can't work. I can't do this. And I slowly started to realize how he was isolating me from everybody. He didn't want me working. He didn't want me talking to people. He wouldn't allow me to talk on my phone. Anytime we went somewhere, he always insisted that he was the one who would drive us, which I thought was like polite at first. But then I started to realize as time went on, it wasn't. It was so that I couldn't leave. And it got to be really, I don't want to say scary, but very uncomfortable, to where I just felt like I was always on edge with him. And this is very TMI, but so much so that like he would demand when we would be intimate. And I felt like I had no other option but to do that. And like, because I was scared of how he was going to react. And this was more emotional and mental. It didn't get physical with him ever. Unfortunately, I have a track record of that too, which is why I talk about true crime. I've learned a lot, guys. But it gets really scary. And so sometimes, like for me, luckily, I was able to identify what was happening. And I realized it took me a while, but I realized something wasn't right. And I ended up just like leaving. Like he said something to me one day. I remember I went to his house and he had a bad day, and I had just arrived, and it was like 2 PM. Okay. And he had a really bad day, and he was proposing, I don't even know how you would want to say it, insinuating that we needed to be intimate right at that moment. I was like, bro, chill. I just got here. Like, and no, like, I'm not just here to be on demand for you. Like, it was very uncomfortable. He said, and he like gaslit me. He's like, I'm having a really bad day, and you don't want to do what will make me feel better. You don't want to comfort me. You don't want to do that. Like, what the fuck? Like, and then like went outside, started smoking a cigarette, making me feel like it was my fault, to where normally I would have gone back and be like, I'm so sorry. Like, you're right. I'm being selfish, this and that. But to where I was like, what is happening here? Like, he's making me the bad guy in this situation, like, because I don't want to have sex with him right now, because I just walked in the door and it's 2 PM. And like, he's telling me the reason I need to be having sex with him isn't because I want to, it's because I need to make him feel better. Like, it all started clicking. And I don't know why I'm sharing so much right now, but whatever. Hopefully it helps somebody else who's watching this. And it clicked for me. And so while he was outside on the patio in the back of the house smoking, I just left. I just got my keys and I left. He started blowing up my phone. Where the fuck are you? What are you? What are you doing? And I was just like, first of all, nobody has ever made me feel as cheap as you just did right now, and as controlled. And I'm done. And that was literally the last time I ever saw him. And it was the best decision I ever made, because that relationship was so toxic for a multitude of reasons and just beyond. So, sorry, my whole point in explaining that is that sometimes you can identify these things within yourself or your own relationship, which is great, but sometimes you can't until it's too late. So if you ever notice that one of your friends or family members is starting to pull away or withdraw, or that they're always trying to make excuses for their partner's behavior, just check in on them. Also, believe victims when they speak up. Gabby did confide in people, but nobody really fully grasped how much danger she was in. And that's not to their fault at all. She wasn't fully disclosing the severity of it. But even if people give you a little bit of information, err on the side of caution, in my opinion, and think that the situation is much bigger than what they're.
That is true. I mean, and I feel so bad for her for that story she just shared because, once again, I know very many women married, in relationships, whatever, that have went through that position. And it's so disheartening to hear because it's almost like those type of men give good men a bad name. There's no, I mean, it's understandable why people won't date for a long time after they get out of these abusive relationships. Their trust is gone. Their identity's gone. Their independence is gone.
They're probably sharing. Just like how, what is the truth if people say, what is it? It's like some sort of expression where if guys tell you they've slept with 5 girls, multiply it by 10. If girls tell you they only spent $20 at the mall, multiply it by 10. Like things like that, like inflate it. If they are giving you a little bit, it's safe to assume they're just trying to be discretionary and conservative with what they're sharing, maybe even getting a pulse check on it. So I would say err on the side of caution and assume that things are bigger than what they're saying. Also, I think it's very important to know that leaving is the most dangerous time. If someone is trying to leave an abusive relationship, they or you need support and you need a safety plan in place. The statistic is something like it takes you 7 or 8 times to successfully leave.
Yeah.
And we also know that statistically, leaving is the most dangerous time to do so. So all in all, the Netflix series, American Murder, Gabby Petito, it is a tough watch, but it is necessary. It goes beyond just telling us what happened, but it really forces us to see the very deep-rooted layers of abuse, control, and manipulation that ultimately led to Gabby's death. Her story should have ended differently. She should have made it home. She should have had the chance to live the life that she dreamed of. But now, the best that we can hope to do is make sure that her story helps others, helps other people recognize the warning signs before it's too late. So if you or someone you know is in a toxic or an abusive relationship, please reach out for help. Resources are available and there are people who will listen because Gabby's story deserves to be more than just another true crime case. It should be a lesson and it should be something that helps prevent this from happening to anybody else. And I could go on and on and on too about my thoughts about the dirty laundries, the despicable human beings they are and what they did to Gabby's family when Brian returned home and how freaking vile they are. But I would probably punch the camera if I continue talking about it because it makes me so angry. It makes me I have a visceral reaction of just rage when I think about them. And I recently did talk on my podcast about all of the conspiracies about if Brian's still alive, if his family helped him, because I know a lot of people are now dredging that back up. So it's only available on the podcast, not YouTube, but you can find it on Apple or on Patreon. It's not on Spotify, only Apple or Patreon. But we talk a lot about that. But they are just the most despicable human beings ever. And I hope that they never walk into a single public place for the rest of their lives without eyes just burning into their souls because they are evil. The fact that they could do that to another mother and another family and withhold that information, it is the cruelest thing on the planet, in my opinion. So anyway, I know that this one was a little bit unpolished. It kind of brings us back to our roots of how we started this channel. So if you've been here since the beginning, you understand this is kind of a throwback to those days, but I just wanted to jump on here. I wanted to share a lot about this and just kind of give you my take on everything. And again, The purpose of sharing her story and talking about it is to raise awareness. That's all we can do at this point, but it is such a valuable tool and it is such a good learning lesson for us. So I really appreciate you tuning in, despite, I'm sure, already being familiar with the story and watching so much content out there. All right, thank you guys again. And until the next one, please stay safe. Bye.
I got one more thing to show you guys, and then we'll talk a little bit, and then we'll call it a night. Man, I've been on a roll these last couple nights. My emotional barometer is going up and down, up and down. I had no idea of this case. I'm going to have to deep dive into it further. This is from Jeff H. And this is a stabilized Bethune video captures someone entering the van as well as the door closing. So here we go. Let me play it again for you. I believe that at that point, Gabby was probably dead. Like I said, I don't know enough about the case to really speak certain things. But if I remember correctly, he had tried to hide the van with like sticks and stuff around it, correct? So it just, I tell you, domestic violence cannot be talked on enough. It's a topic that should be spoken on every second of every day, and awareness after awareness after awareness of the stories and the survivors. Leslie, can you go ahead and put my other channel as well, the addiction one? And that channel is called 12 Gauge in the World of Wonders. I'm sharing personal life experiences on that page, where you're able to see the other side of 12 Gauge that is not polished and true crime related like on this channel. It's more silliness and stuff. Like today, I posted some videos of me riding on a new scooter that I got with my family members, and it's just for a good fun time, and it's the other side of me. So if you could go and subscribe, that'd be awesome as well. I upload over there, and I'm starting to upload pretty regularly. But like I was saying about domestic violence, it can never be talked about enough. There's tons and tons and tons of cases where these men are controlling these women, and it's all behind the scenes. There was one that I covered. It was a TikTok murderer where he would be doing impressions of like Al Pacino and stuff. That was his good impression, I guess. And ultimately, his relationship seemed just like this one. It seemed perfect on the camera. It seemed perfect. Every time they were on cameras, he even had her on camera and this and that. And then he started questioning her loyalty. And one day, he planted a camera or an iPad, his child iPad they had together. And he was listening at home. She had started to see a person who he didn't like anyways. And she had already broken it off with him. So it's not like they were still together. Well, he heard giggling and laughing and all this other stuff. And he drove over there. and shot them both right on the couch. Killed them both. And he was playing the victim on the stand. This is my other channel. If you guys want to go and check it out. Like I said, I have some. Let's go cruising. It's nothing really true crime, even though I did upload a couple by accident. But if y'all could go and subscribe, that'd be awesome. Like I said, I'm cruising on a scooter, and there's road trip videos, gym stuff. Really, really a fun time. But with that case, let me get back to my other channel and I'll show you which one I'm talking about. So if y'all want to go check it out on my page, you can do so. Because I did two lives on that case, and it's almost like the Gabby Petito case. It really is. And I felt so bad for that woman. No problem, Leslie. Let me get to the lives. See, there's a bunch of stuff on here. There's a couple domestic violence ones right here. I get to it. You have to scroll down. There's a lot of videos on here. If you haven't been in my library and watched any of this stuff, if you can tolerate my voice for hours and hours, I guess, go check it out. Go deep dive. Go binge watch. There's a lot of stuff on here. More than Idaho 4, more than just one case. There's a lot of different ones. Here's one it's right here. It's called the TikTok star Ali Abuba Lama Bonds. This with the cross-examination. And this is the TikTok murder one right next to it. Part 1. There's a little bit of Alex Murdaugh. So this is the one that I'm talking about. So if you can find these two, go check them out. You'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. And there's just so much on here. I mean, there's a lot of Idaho 4 stuff on there. Lady Bird Lake. I still haven't heard anything more about this one. No Pressgrove. He was the young guy that got killed in Oklahoma. This one's an interesting case too, the Mo Wilson case out of Austin, Texas. Hold on a second, guys. I have a knock on the door. Be right back.
Can't see these over here. Oh, they're in the bag. I was just feeling it.
All right. We'll see you in the morning.
All right.
Love you. DoorDash. Actually, can I get some Kit Kats? Anybody want some Kit Kats? So there's the Lady Bird Lake one. This one's a good one too. Ellen Greenberg. There's just a lot. Just a lot. What's his name? I can't think of his name. This one's a good one too. This one's sad. Raul Mesa Jr. A lot of these, there's some missing cases in here. Addiction ones. Y'all know that dude right there, right? Sex trafficking ones. I mean, another missing case. But go check out my page if you haven't. Like I said, there's a lot of binge watching material in there. I'm sure you'll enjoy something. Yeah, you want some Kit Kats? Hope they don't ban me for this. These are awesome. If you if you freeze them a little bit and they get a little crunchier, they're really freaking good. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. That was too kind. Yeah, hopefully I'll buy that house. I don't know if you saw that house that I was talking about. I might end up looking into that. I meant to go by there and check it out, but I probably will tomorrow. And maybe end up purchasing it. It's a big old house. I'm going to head south tomorrow, and I'm going to go take the scooter and take the boys, and we're going to go along the lakefront. We're going to go down the river. We're going to do all kinds of stuff. So if you want to see our adventures, tune into the other page, and you'll see the uploads later in the evening. But I hope that y'all have a wonderful night. Leslie, you want to come up for a minute? You haven't been up here. I used to have Aquarius. I hope I didn't scare her off. Here's your link, Leslie, if you want to come up. Southwest Firefly, if you want to come up. I've seen you on panel on Salties. I know that you're able to come up as well. We can talk about that, because if you have any information on that, I'd love to hear it, because I just did that case randomly and I didn't know anything about it until I did that case. Did I believe she did it? I'm still holding out. I wrote Darlie and I asked her for her side or whatever. I might write her again, send her a stamp in case she doesn't have the money to send me an email back. So I don't know. That case is really confusing to me. It really is. It is really confusing to me. Come on up, Southwest Firefly. Let's talk a minute. I want your opinion on that case. I don't know if you know it, but come on up. Always like to have different people up here. It's okay. We can just talk. She is the mom who had 3 children. 2 of the children were downstairs sleeping with her. She was asleep on the couch. Her husband was asleep with one of the children upstairs. Supposedly, an intruder broke in, stabbed her children and herself. Well, one of the boys instantly died. The other boy was still hanging on to life. She supposedly got stabbed so deeply that the only thing that kept her from dying instantly was the chain she wore around her neck. So they did emergency surgery. They saved her life. Like I said, the 2 boys died. And that's all I really know about that. I mean, her sister gave a big, long interview on a channel that somebody suggested to me. I don't know if it was Leslie or somebody suggested that channel. I went and listened to that interview, and it was really, her sister was talking totally different on what these documentaries were showing. So it made me question it, because like everything else, you think that it's cut and dry, but then you listen to the other side and you're like, well, maybe that's not really what went on. But, the police officers were talking about this cocktail glass that was broken, that was on top of the bloody carpet. And they were saying, how could that carpet have had that?
Yeah.
Hey, Leslie.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was waiting for Southwest Firefly to come up here.
Where'd they go?
I don't know. But I was
I
just.
can drop down.
No, you're good. You're good. I can have both of you up here, or you. She said she vaguely remembers it, so it's okay. But Darlie ended up getting life, or she ended up getting the death penalty, I think, because for whatever reason, the investigation showed that she was lying. And I have to go back and dig a little bit more on that case because Didn't you tell me about that creator that had the interview with her sister on it, Leslie?
Which one?
Darlie Rodier or something.
Never. I don't think I've ever heard of it. The
Okay.
case.
Because
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Let me see if I still have it in my history because I went and listened to that interview. Somebody suggested that. Maybe it was Michelle. I think it was Michelle that suggested that. I thought it was you, but now thinking back on it, it was probably Michelle. I have so much stuff in my history. So how's life treating you? How's Billy?
He's good. He's sitting on the couch. He just got out of the tub.
Oh.
He lost a part to the Jeep today. Then we looked everywhere for it, and you think we could find that damn clip anywhere, and it won't run without it. So we have to order another one, I guess.
That's
Never
terrible.
fails.
That's terrible when that happens because my dad's always doing that too. He works on stuff like, and he's always losing a piece or whatever. And
Something.
it drives him crazy. And then when
Yeah,
you're
I
not,
told him to get him a bowl and put it when he starts tearing stuff apart. Just throw it all into the bowl. At least we'll know where it is.
and then when you're not looking for it, that's when you find it.
You'll find it. Yeah, or once
Yeah.
we order the other part, we'll find it.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it didn't fall into the engine. No,
So he works on stuff a lot. I mean, he a handyman.
Yeah, he's been trying to. Yeah, he can fix anything.
Oh, that's
Yeah, he
good.
can build, and he's one of these ones that can do anything. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah,
That's good.
we're gonna we put a metal roof on a couple years ago. We did one side and it about killed me and him. We did it together, just us, tore off the shingles and then put the metal roof on, and neither one of us knew what we was doing. So now this year we got to finish the other half. But it's kind of laughter to see us up there.
You'll kind of learn along the way.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that.
It doesn't leak either.
That's surprising. That's surprising right there.
I know, right? That's what we thought too. Wait till the screws or something, the sheet metal screws leak or something, but nope.
Yeah. It's something.
But they're supposed to last a lifetime, the metal roofs. So if you buy that house, see if they'll put one on it for you.
A metal roof?
Yeah. I guess they're the newest things.
Yeah, I know a
Plus
lot of
it's
people
really
have
good.
those on their houses. And it's
Yeah.
they swear up and down that they last a lifetime, like you're saying.
Well, it's cheaper than shingles, and when it snows, the snow just runs right off, right under the grass. So it's kind
That
of
is so
cool.
true. That is so true. I'm trying to
Yep.
think of what that damn channel's called. Something no more. It's
Poke World?
no, not that one.
No more?
This was
Oh.
like something no more.
Hmm.
Hold I'm still looking for it. God. This dude does like interviews and he does true crime. And he used to be a detective or a police officer. And I subscribed to his channel
It's
because
not. It's not Ken, is it? The detective Ken?
no, not him. I
Not
don't
him.
think. I don't think. I don't know. I have so many people on this subscription. It's like I even have people that I don't even watch their channels anymore in here. I might need to clean it out.
There you go.
Whoa. So I was watching Coffin Daffer's show the other day about the Idaho 4. She did a good job on it.
Yeah, she does pretty good. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
She's such a proud mama. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We were talking about her children, before we went up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think it's awesome
Yeah, she's
that
for her.
people really never get to see the other side of the creator. They
I
get
know, right?
an impression of who the creator is, and they
Yeah.
don't see the other side of them. Like that's why I want to start uploading on my other channel because the people that really want to take a look into my life on a different level. I mean, they can see that I'm just not this person right here.
Right. Yeah. That there is a true 12 gauge in there somewhere, huh?
Yeah, somewhere.
That's,
There is
yeah.
one of I think Nina's niece or something, or someone
Did
who
she get
knows
out of the
her.
hospital?
She's supposed to get out tomorrow, but I
Oh,
haven't heard it.
good.
I texted her. She didn't respond, so I don't know anything that's going on with her. I don't know if it was something really.
Yeah, I sent her an email too, but I haven't heard anything back from her yet. So,
Yeah, I can't
yeah.
believe we still have JLR on here. That must have been from the beginning that I started covering the case and Grizzly True Crime.
Get JLR on the show on panel.
Oh no. Oh no.
Hey, he's come a long way from his just getting out of, the hoosh cow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Leslie, as far as all this stuff that's going on with the Idaho 4, as far as the documents and everything? Are you clear on everything that's being said?
Oh, there's so many stories going on now, and you just don't know what to believe. You just gotta wait till
No.
it comes out, I guess. It feels like it's a movie. It really does. Nobody actually knows what's going on. They just say they do. Besides Heather Fitzgerald, she knows. She's got it pretty, but I don't know. She's so that he's innocent. You can't talk her. I mean, not talk her, but you can't show her any different. She's just set that he's so innocent. But I don't know. I'm kind of not torn, but I don't know anymore. Tell you the truth,
Right.
I just don't know. You know,
Thank you for that, Rondi. Unresolved No More. That's what it's called.
isn't that Frank's old channel?
Unresolved No More is this person channel. Let me see where the interview is. Darley,
Is that
right?
Frank's old channel?
I don't think so.
Oh, yeah, I think his old one was called something like that.
Yeah.
Or
Darley.
Resolved or something. I forget.
They all sound so much alike. It's like hard to keep up with them all.
It is.
This guy has a lot of cases on his as well. Darlie Routier, that's her name. I found it.
So what do you think? I know you're sick of the case and you just want to get over with, like, most of us, but what do you think? Have you changed your mind at all with the text messages and to come find out about his his autism, or
I think he's guilty.
you still think he's...
I mean, but I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, you know?
Yes. Oh, I
I
get
believe,
that. Yeah, me
I
too.
believe, I believe that the evidence
Oh,
that
that's Ken.
that's Ken.
Yeah, that's Detective Ken. Yeah.
Okay, then yeah, that's a channel unresolved, and this is Darlie's sister. And let's listen to what she had to say. Those of you that don't know the case, I just kind of gave it to you a little bit. So this is her sister about to recall what she's spoken with her sister about.
They did not talk to Darlie's family. They developed this theory. It started with James Cron, who was a consultant. He came in at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and by 6:30 he had Darlie pegged as the intruder. And from that moment moving forward, everything was developed with that in their brain. They never reached out to anybody that would have been a beneficial interview to Darlie's character. The only people they reached out to, now they kind of set out feelers to pretty much anybody that they could find in contact with Darlie's life. But the only ones they actually got a second interview with or wrote down notes on was the ones that had something negative to say about Darlie. They didn't follow up on any leads because to them, they didn't think those leads were important, because in their mind, they knew that it was Darlie. And that is how they got this misrepresentation of who Darlie was as a person. And that's really what allowed them to believe that she was capable of doing this, because there was a handful, I'm going to say less than what I could count on my fingers, of people that had anything negative to say about Darlie. And I mean, that should speak volumes, because when you're 26 years old, you're infallible and you do nothing wrong. And typically you're going to have more haters at 26 years old than you would at any other time. You've met a ton of.
See how hard it is to go with, okay, you know the evidence, you know the case, and then you hear the sister talking like this. And instantly in my mind, I am very objective to both sides. I have to hear both sides to kind of go run it through my brain. And then I start wavering. I'm like, okay, well, the sister would know, and the way she's talking and all this, you know.
Yeah, but remember, that's still her sister.
Well, yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to really sit there and go, okay, yeah, she's still guilty. You know what I mean? Like, why would her sister, I mean, then I go, well, why would her sister lie? Why would her sister lie? Let's listen some more.
People, and you've made enemies along the way, and that's just how it is. Darlie did not have a ton of haters. Darlie's entire family supported her. There's not been one single family member that has said, oh, I don't know, maybe she did it. Not one. There's none. And that also speaks volumes to me as well. There was a lot done in that first 48 hours that was done blindly. They didn't even have a written statement from Darlie at that time. They had the initial comment that she made to Officer Waddell saying that she had been attacked, the description of the man. They had the 911 call. They had what she had told Officer Wallings, who was the second officer. Basically, it was just a description of what she remembered. And that was it. That was basically what they had. And when they tried to reconstruct and do a crime scene analysis. They really had some of those details wrong, and it really impacted how they processed everything else moving forward. And that's kind of why we are where we are right now.
She sounds so certain, Leslie. She sounds so certain.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I go back and follow this case and deep dive and everything else, it's going to be just as confusing as all the other ones. I mean, she sounds so certain that the police made a mistake.
Well,
they got it wrong. They pinpointed all their attention on Darley.
what was she accused of doing?
She was asleep downstairs with her 2 little boys. But supposedly an intruder came in, stabbed her in the neck, stabbed her a couple times, stabbed the little boys. One of them died instantly. The other one hung on until he made it to the ER, and then he perished. But
oh, geez. Oh, Jesus.
I want to say that Southwest Firefly. I really do. I just don't know if it would be. I mean, because a lot of family members won't lie for you. You know what I mean? If they believe you're guilty, they're gonna be like, "Well, I love
But a
my
lot
sister."
don't want to believe. They don't want to believe it either.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
that would be so hard.
Yeah, that would
I
be
wouldn't know
hard.
what to do in that situation.
I mean, she is so confident, though. I mean, it's difficult. When I heard this, I was like, okay, I just made a fool out of myself. And everything I just said on that live, I was like, oh my God. But
So
I'm
there's
still,
this sister sticking up for her. So where's Brian's sisters?
I don't know. They're
You
they're not
know?
they're not talking. They're not talking.
No, they're not. So makes you
This is the
wonder
lady.
why.
Hey, this is the lady that went to the cemetery of her little boys on their birthday and was shooting out silly string and balloons and everything, and people were furious about it. Y'all need to go deep dive into this case if you haven't.
I'll have to
It's
go
one.
watch it.
I mean, I did the live, or y'all can go on YouTube. You can find plenty of stuff. But I want you to hear this interview.
Okay. If you remember back, I'm sure because you're saying that people got things wrong during the assessments and stuff. You kind of watched at least a little bit of what I had to say, and you had brought up that I had gotten some things wrong. Do you remember what those things are off the top of your head?
Some of them.
Okay.
I had written a whole list of notes, and it's on my counter at the house. I know that one of the things that was brought me, which made me first watch your coverage on Darley's case, was the couch. And you were under the impression that there was not blood on the couch. And that was mentioned by Mr. James Cron. And I think that the reason that that is important is because there was a couple different details that were not included in his assessment. First of all, I think he may have been under the impression that she was on a completely separate couch. I don't know that he has ever verified which couch he originally thought she was on, but she was actually on the couch that was parallel with that back wall and the glass sliding door. And she also had her head closest to the TV, not facing away from the TV. So when you look at the pictures, there is definitely blood on that couch. She was laying on a pillow, and she also had a blanket. Her nightgown shows that the blood traveled over her left shoulder. She was lying kind of towards her left shoulder, and when her neck was cut, that blood traveled back and up over her shoulder. To me, that kind of supports and nullifies the idea that she cut her throat at the sink, because your blood doesn't run up and back over your shoulder. That would defy gravity. And it certainly supports the fact that she was lying on the couch when that initial wound was inflicted. I also think that a lot of people have this misconception that, there's going to be blood on every surface as soon as you're injured. And Darlie did not have any arterial leads. Damon had no arterial leads. Devin did have an artery that was punctured, but it was very internal. And so that bleeding was not squirting out like you would expect on an arterial bleed, like you see in Hollywood. It's very much not like the Hollywood representation of a murder.
And I'm so glad she said that, because there's so many cases where people are like, where's the blood? Where's the blood? There should have been so much blood. Well,
But couldn't she slice her? Couldn't she cut her throat laying down? Why would she have to be standing up in the kitchen?
Well,
She
if
could
she
cut her own throat laying down, which would still make it run down that way.
Good point. If she's left-handed, I mean,
Yeah.
it had to be a lot of pressure. But I mean,
True.
they said that she was cut so deep that it caught her necklace, and if it hadn't been for the necklace stopping the knife,
Right.
that would have been it.
Huh.
But she makes a good point with the blood, though. She's a nurse, so it's not like she's making stuff up. Okay, so she knows
Right.
about the blood. So
Right.
she's saying that it's not a bloody, not like you see in Hollywood where it's splattered all over the place.
Or it's squirting out all over. Yeah. Okay.
Right, right. And so when people are saying in the Idaho case that why didn't they see all the blood? Maybe there wasn't hardly any blood out of the body. Maybe the body was bloated and had the blood with the bruising and everything else on the body. I'm sure she was.
And everybody.
Clothes on.
Everybody bleeds different because your blood is some are thinner, some are thicker, some coagulate faster, some don't coagulate at all. It's all different. Everybody's different that way. So who knows what blood is, where.
I like this point she made.
Did you know if you put sugar on
when her neck was cut, she was lying down. There was an altercation. We know there was an altercation because of her bruises and the state of her physical being. The inside of her lips were all tore up like hamburger meat. They were just raw and kind of damaged, for a lack of better words. She had bruising under her chin, some cuts under her chin. She had a cut on her cheek. She had bruising all over her breast. She had bruising from her wrists down to her armpits. There was a lot of bruising that indicated she had suffered some kind of altercation, and the blood supports that probably happened on the couch. She did not ever say to Officer Waddell that she fought the intruder at the counter. That's nowhere on the 911 call. You cannot hear it anywhere on the 911 call. She does say that she was frightened or fighting. It depends on how you hear that comment. But even if it is, she was fighting. At this point, she's been attacked. We know she's been attacked. So she's able to understand that, okay, well, I was just fighting somebody off. It's not necessarily, I remember specifically the conflict or the engaging in a fight itself, because she really has no recollection of the actual attack.
Well, I'm going to leave it right there because I am going to do a follow-up to that case. And I don't want to play the whole thing.
Can I before we go, can I tell you something about that Ken detective guy?
Sure.
The Sebastian Rogers case. Well, they got in touch with him. I think it was that they got in touch with him, and he was going to go there, and then he talked to Sebastian's stepdad, I believe it was, and then he's not on the case no more. He had a great big live about it or something. I don't know if he knows about it.
No, like I said, Michelle was the one that turned me on to him. I thought it was you, but I was mistaken. It was Michelle, and because she's
he's a very famous guy, Ken.
Yeah. See, I didn't know anything about him until I went and looked at his page.
He's been with the mob. He's an old timer. He's not old, but he's back in the days when he was a detective and stuff, and he did a lot of mob crimes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have to continue with the Darley case because that is an interesting one. But just when I get lined up with these cases, bam, Idaho, something happens and it derails me. I
You get
mean,
sucked right back
honestly,
in, don't you?
well, honestly, I really want to take a break on that, like I was saying last night, because last night, I'm going to be honest with you, Leslie, it tore me up reading all that stuff. It really did. I mean, from the text messages to the 911 call, I was sick to my stomach. I felt like I wanted to cry. And I'm not a crier, but
I could
that
tell
emotion,
it bugged you.
that it messed with me so bad.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
messed
I
with
could
me so
tell.
bad. And usually
Yeah.
cases do not get on me like that because, I talk about so many of them. I do this for, I work with juveniles and I've worked with adults and stuff like that. But man, last night reading that stuff, it put me right there. It put me right
And that
there.
you
And,
could see it happening. Yeah.
and
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I'm so sorry you went through that.
it's
That's
okay.
hard.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's okay. I mean, I talked to my girlfriend about it and, she was watching and, she's like, I could
What's
tell
her
that
name again?
Jamaica.
Good one.
You're good, Leslie. I'm quicker than
Oh,
you are.
yeah, you are. Darn it. I
Anyways,
got you on that one.
got to wake up a little earlier, Leslie. Got to wake up a little earlier.
Darn it. I got to get me a scooter so I can get out there and ride like you do. Get my brain flowing.
Oh man, that was a blast. That was a blast. I'm gonna put some decals on it and stuff like that.
There you go. You just wear a helmet and be careful.
That's what everybody says, but sometimes
Watch for
people.
those idiots out there because nobody watches for scooters or motorcycles. They're all in a hurry and got to go here and got to go there. And just be careful. And watch those kids by that river.
Oh yeah, oh
I
yeah.
don't want to see that chocolate. I'm on a diet.
I watch them kids like a hawk. But I'm
Good.
with you,
I
Southwest.
knew you would. Yeah.
I'm with you, Southwest Firefly. Like I said, that really tore me up last night, and I was like thinking, man, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, it's always been real to me. It's always been a vicious crime. It's always been something that happened really fast. And to hear other people just laugh and joke, and they
Yeah,
still,
it's like it's a game now, who's on whose side and who's care, and who can now do who and who gets the first notice out there. Well, I heard this and I heard, I mean, I just don't get it either. I really don't.
I mean, I don't know how somebody
Now they're
could.
going against the parents and calling them pedos and he molested his own daughter. Oh my God, you guys really? You know? I watched Stacy or whatever, Ethan's mom on TV last night. She did a wonderful interview on Seattle. It's on the Seattle News, and
Yeah.
they do once a month on it. And I don't know if you've seen it, but it was. I think I might have sent it to you. But it was really, really good. She really opened up, and she's not what they say she is. She's not. She doesn't seem like she's no. Um, what's that group called, the Illuminati and stuff. They say she's the head of the Illuminati, and she was really open last night,
It's so
really
sad that
open.
people can get on this platform and say what they want without recourse. Before people used to say, in my opinion, right? Now they don't even say that. It's almost like,
Or allegedly or something. Or
yeah, look what they're doing to us. Look what they're
yeah,
saying to us. To us, who is us? Are you on
yeah,
trial? No, Brian's on trial, not you.
yeah, right.
Don't
Was it
get me
your kids
started.
that I know.
Don't get me
Let's.
started.
Maybe that's why Nina's in the hospital because it got to her too much.
I thought so too, and I told her she needed to take a break. I've told
Yeah,
her, and I've told other people too, because when their health starts to decline due to this stuff, they're too invested emotionally, and they need to put it down. They need to leave it alone, because it's not going to matter how many lives they
Well,
have or how many people believe them or whatever. If they're sick in a hospital bed dying because they neglected their health, because they're so worried about people that
this
they,
case, yeah,
yeah,
that case they don't even know, you
right,
know. I mean, I get involved too. I get involved in all of them though.
yeah.
I can't help
I mean,
myself.
I'm involved
Yeah.
too. I'm involved too. I'm not saying that I'm not, but at one
But as soon
point,
as
you
summer
gotta,
comes, I think it'll even itself out. I'm hoping with the garden work and going for rides and walks, you know. Yep.
yeah. Rondi
Yeah.
asked me what Jamaica thinks, and I told her Jamaica loves the channel. She thinks y'all are great mods, and the people that are in here, she says that, it seems like a very laid back, chill,
Well,
very
tell her we
adult.
really appreciate her letting us have you for as much as she does.
Well,
Because
she
that's
said
got to be hard too.
if I can't be with you, I'm going to watch you. I said, that's fine. That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Her real name's not Jamaica, but
I
I
know.
don't,
I'm
I
not
don't want
dumb.
to, I don't want to throw her name out there. You know what I mean?
That's okay. That's cool. When you're ready, you will.
Yeah. I mean,
Tell her to
because
write me. My email is.
I get enough hate, on myself. I don't want to bring anybody else into that. You know what I
Oh, I
mean?
don't blame you.
And
Right. Nobody needs.
people are relentless.
Right.
People are relentless.
Right. Yeah, you find somebody that really doesn't like you and they'll hunt you down.
Yeah, let them. I got something for them.
Yeah, me
got,
too.
got a little bit of something for them.
Yeah.
But Leslie, I
Right.
appreciate you hopping on panel. I appreciate all that you've
Oh,
done
I
for the
appreciate you
channel.
letting me come up.
Tell Billy I said hi. I hope y'all's pizza was
Ah.
good.
I will. Yeah, we're supposed to be on a diet. We're supposed to be starting today, but yeah, we had pizza tonight. Yeah.
You can't ever turn down a good pizza. You can't ever turn
Heck
down a good
no.
No,
I
you
didn't have
can't.
to cook. Yeah.
Right. That's what my mom always
Right.
do. I didn't have to cook.
Yep.
Okay. Well, thank you, Leslie.
Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night and tell Jamaica hello, and we'll
Will
talk to you
do.
later.
All
Okay,
right.
bye, guys. Love y'all.
All right, Leslie and Billy. Y'all put your hand together for Leslie and Billy. Y'all thank you so much for being here tonight and spending your time with the channel and spending your time with the chat. Always remember, without you, there is no me. There is no me. I get on here not for myself, not to gloat, not to do any of that stuff, but to try to give you the best, whatever you want to call it, reactions, whatever you want to call it. It's up to you. Just, I try to do my best and not leave you in a negative mindset at the end of the whole 2 hours or hours, however long we spend. But I hope y'all keep coming back. Tell people this is a good place to come. And I hope if you've never attended the chat and you kind of lurking, I hope you get brave enough to come into the chat and at least say hello. Because we're not going to bite you. We agree to disagree. And whether we have a difference of opinion, we still end the night in a good frame of mind. Y'all keep each other safe out there. I will see y'all soon. Maestro, cue that music.